Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be cracking open stories of the Quran by Ibn Kathir.
Ah, excellent.
And this is more than just a history book,
Right.
We're going to be uncovering wisdom and guidance
Yeah.
that's hidden within these amazing stories.
Yeah. You're in for a treat. These stories are like little windows into human nature and,
Yeah.
they explore ethics, the consequences of choices, and there's definitely lessons that are relevant even today.
Okay, let's just jump right into it. We're starting with a story that I think most people probably already know, Cain and Abel,
Yeah.
the ultimate tale of jealousy and the first murder on earth.
Yeah, OG.
Right. But Ibn Kathir reveals this pretty fascinating detail about their society.
What's really interesting is that, according to Islamic tradition, Adam's children were supposed to marry like from a different birth, not their
Uh-huh.
own twin.
Wow.
So this actually kind of sheds new light on Cain's jealousy
Yeah,
because, he was driven by this forbidden desire for his twin sister.
that totally changes my understanding of the story. And speaking of bringing history to life,
Yeah.
did you know that there's this place in Syria called the Blood Cave
Hmm.
that's believed to be where Abel was killed?
Oh, wow.
It's incredible to think about these real-world connections.
Yeah, it makes you realize that they're not just stories,
Yeah,
they're reflections of our shared human experience.
absolutely.
And theologically, this story really lays the foundation for some huge concepts like sin, responsibility, and the impact of our choices.
Yeah,
It makes you really think about those like firsts in life
right.
and how they can set a precedent for everything that comes after.
So what can we learn from this story today? I think it's a reminder that even though this happened, way back when, those feelings of jealousy and rage
Mm.
are still very much real for people today.
Totally, totally. And you know what?
Yeah.
These stories, they're like mirrors,
Mm.
reflecting back our own humanity,
Yeah.
even the parts that we might not want to see.
Okay, now let's move from fratricide to the temptation of forbidden knowledge.
Yeah.
Ibn Kathir tells the story of Harut and Marut,
Yeah, two angels.
two angels sent to Babylon to test humanity with magic.
With magic.
It's kind of head-scratcher, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of debate around this one.
Yeah.
Like, were they actually testing humanity, or did their knowledge somehow become corrupted?
Oh, great.
And then, how did magic come into play during the reign of Solomon?
Yeah.
Some scholars believe that the jinn played a big role in spreading these teachings.
See, I find it interesting how the Quran specifically mentions magic
Yeah.
in relation to the time of Solomon.
Hmm.
Magic existed before and after,
Right.
but this time period seems particularly important.
It really does. This story makes you think about the allure of power and forbidden knowledge.
Right.
It's like this timeless human struggle. But the Quran is clear. Magic might seem appealing, but it ultimately leads to harm, and there's no benefit in the afterlife.
It's like easy solutions
Yeah,
often come with a hidden cost.
for sure.
Are you ready for a story about courage and faith?
Always.
All right, let's talk about the dwellers of the town and this one believer who stood against them.
Yeah, I like this story because the town is actually never named.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of left,
Yeah.
blank,
Yeah.
which makes it feel so universal.
Yeah.
But the message is very clear. 3 messengers are sent to guide the people, but only one guy, Habib the carpenter,
Wow.
listens to them.
He's the only one who believes.
Yeah, and he's the only one.
Even though it means
Yeah,
being rejected by his entire community.
his faith is unwavering,
It is. It's so strong.
and ultimately it leads him to paradise.
Wow.
It's such a powerful reminder that true belief can withstand any challenge.
It makes you wonder, what would it take for you to stand up for your own convictions like that?
Right.
Even when everybody else disagrees with you.
That's what these stories are meant to do,
Yeah.
provoke those questions
Yeah.
to make us think about our own lives and how we live them.
All right. Ready for a story about very, very specific instructions.
Yick me.
Okay. We're diving into the story of Moses and the children of Israel.
Yeah.
And they're commanded by God to sacrifice a heifer.
Mm.
But not just any heifer. It had to meet these very particular criteria.
Oh, this is where it gets interesting.
Mm.
Because the children of Israel, with all their questioning and reluctance, actually made the task so much harder than it needed to be.
Oh, really?
They kept asking for more details, like what's the heifer's age, what color is it, What's its temperament?
It's like the ultimate test of patience. It makes
Yeah.
you think about the whole idea of faith and obedience, right?
Right.
Sometimes you just have to follow instructions even if you don't get the reasoning behind it.
Exactly. There's different ways to interpret this story.
Okay.
Some scholars focus on the difficulty the children of Israel had with following simple instructions,
Right.
while others believe that, like, God was intentionally making it harder as a test of their faith.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of like up for interpretation.
Yeah, no matter how you look at it, the sacrifice did eventually, serve a purpose, right? It revealed a murderer.
Right.
Justice was served.
Yeah. Almost like divine intervention.
It's like sometimes those seemingly arbitrary rules
Mm.
have a deeper meaning.
Yeah. They lead to these, like, unexpected consequences.
And sometimes the most important thing is just to trust the process,
Mm.
even when things don't make sense.
Right.
Now let's kind of shift gears here
Okay.
to a story about a journey of knowledge and patience where Moses is actually the one being tested. Okay, so he encounters this mysterious figure
Mm.
named Al-Qadir,
Al-Qadir, yeah.
this man with divine knowledge.
And what does Al-Qadir do? He goes and takes these 3 actions that seem totally unjust.
Yeah.
He damages a boat, he kills a young boy, and then repairs a wall without any payment.
Oh, what?
Moses is, like, understandably bewildered.
Right.
He just cannot figure out what's going on.
I can only imagine it would be like, whoa, hold on, what's going on here?
Exactly. But eventually, Al-Qadir reveals the hidden wisdom behind each action.
Okay.
And those explanations are key,
Yeah.
like the boat.
Yeah.
He damaged it to save it from being seized by this, like, tyrannical king.
Oh, wow.
And the boy,
Yeah.
he was killed because he would grown up to be a disbeliever, and he was replaced by a righteous child.
Oh, wow. So it's
Yeah.
a plot twist.
And the wall that he repaired hid a treasure for 2 orphans.
Wow. Talk about a happy ending.
Right.
But it's a powerful reminder that we often don't see the bigger picture, right?
We really don't. We think we know what's best.
Right.
But there's this divine plan unfolding
Yeah.
that we can't grasp.
And this story also raises some intriguing questions about Al-Qadir himself, right?
It does. Some believe that he's immortal,
Wow.
while others connect him to figures like the Dajjal.
It definitely leaves you with a lot to think about.
Definitely.
It really does. Speaking of things to think about, let's talk about the dangers of wealth and arrogance. Ibn Kathir tells the story of Qarun, this guy who was incredibly wealthy, but ultimately consumed by his own pride.
Right. This is a classic cautionary tale.
Yeah,
Corinne had it all: gold, silver, treasure beyond measure.
right.
But instead of using his wealth for good, he hoarded it.
Yeah, and bragged about it all the time.
Oh, constantly. He was always bragging about how much he had.
It's like he totally forgot where all that wealth came from in the first place and took all the credit for himself, saying that his intelligence was the reason for his success.
Right.
It really shows you the dangers of intellectual pride, doesn't it?
Totally. Totally.
And people tried to warn him, right?
Oh, yeah, all the time. They told him, be humble, use your wealth to help others, remember the afterlife.
But it was like talking to a wall.
Yeah, it all just fell on deaf ears.
He was too caught up in his own ego.
And the consequences were pretty dramatic,
Yeah. The earth just opened up and swallowed him whole.
along with all his treasures.
Gone. It's a stark reminder that worldly possessions are fleeting,
Absolutely.
and true wealth lies in righteousness and humility.
It's a story that's so relevant today,
Yeah.
when so much emphasis is placed on material
Very
success,
right.
makes you think about what really matters.
Okay, from a tale of downfall,
Yeah.
let's move on to a story of transformation.
Okay.
The story of Bilqis, the Queen of Sheba.
Oh, she's fascinating.
She's known for her wisdom and power, but she started out as a sun worshiper.
Right.
And it's through the prophet Solomon that she learns about worshiping only one God.
Yeah, and I love how Solomon actually learns about Bilqis and her people's beliefs through his hoopoe.
That's right, a bird with some pretty amazing abilities.
Talk about divine intervention.
It adds this magical touch to the whole story.
It really does.
And then there's this fascinating exchange between Solomon and Bilqis.
Oh, yeah, like a diplomatic dance.
The letters, the gifts.
Right.
It feels like a high-stakes game of chess.
It really does.
And then, of course, there's that incredible moment when Bilqis' throne is transported to Solomon.
Talk about making an entrance.
Right. But beyond the spectacle, there's this deeper message here, right?
Totally.
Bilqis, through her interactions with Solomon, ultimately embraces the truth and accepts Allah.
It shows the power of dialogue, of seeking understanding and being open to new ideas.
Even the most powerful individuals can be humbled by the truth.
For sure.
Speaking of Sheba,
Hmm.
let's talk about the civilization itself.
Okay.
Saba was a prosperous land known for its impressive dams.
Yeah, they were quite advanced for their time.
But, as Ibn Kathir points out, their success actually contributed to their downfall.
Oh, the classic rise and fall.
Right. Their prosperity led to arrogance, the sense of self-sufficiency, and eventually they turned away from God.
It's a story that speaks to the cyclical nature of history,
It's a cautionary tale about the importance of gratitude and remembering that every blessing comes from a higher power. And the consequences of their ingratitude were pretty devastating.
Oh, yeah.
A flood from their own dam destroyed everything they built.
It's a powerful image, right?
It is.
Our own creations, our own achievements, they can become our undoing if we lose sight of what matters.
Okay. Are you ready for a mind-bending story that really challenges our understanding of time and death?
Hit me.
It's the story of Uzair, this man who questioned how God could bring the dead back to life.
Uzair's doubt led him on a pretty incredible journey.
Yeah.
He was made to die for 100 years.
Wow. 100 years.
And when he was resurrected, he found his food and drink unchanged.
What?
But his donkey had completely decomposed.
Wow. Imagine waking up after a century and your lunch is still fresh.
Right. Talk about a time travel experiment gone wrong.
This experience taught Uzair a profound lesson about the absolute power of God.
Right.
Time, death, decomposition, it's all under God's control.
It really makes you realize how limited our human understanding is. There are forces at work that we just can't even begin to comprehend.
And there's this debate about Uzair's status, right? Some people consider him a prophet, while others believe he was just a wise man.
It's another one of those stories that leaves room for personal interpretation.
Let's move on to a figure whose story really sparks the imagination.
Yeah.
Dhul-Qarnayn.
Dhul-Qarnayn.
This mysterious ruler who traveled to the farthest reaches of the earth.
Right. Encountered all these strange civilizations.
And even built a massive barrier to contain these forces of chaos.
Dhul-Qarnayn is an enigma, isn't he?
He really is. Was he a king, a prophet, an angel?
I know. Even his name, the two-horned one, is debated.
Right. Some believe it refers to his conquests.
Right.
Others believe it was an actually physical characteristic.
It's like a historical puzzle, just waiting to be solved.
But what we do know is that he went on some pretty amazing adventures, right?
Oh, yeah. He traveled to the setting and rising sun, encountered people who lived in these, extreme conditions.
And his most famous feat, of course, is the construction of that massive barrier to hold back Gog and Magog.
Right.
These mysterious forces of destruction.
It's a testament to human ingenuity and, divine purpose.
It sounds like something straight out of a fantasy epic.
It really does.
It
makes you wonder about those lost civilizations, ancient technologies,
Right.
the age-old struggle between good and evil.
Speaking of Gog and Magog, Ibn Kathir really dives into these figures. They're central to Islamic eschatology, right?
Right, the study of the end times.
They're these unstoppable forces of chaos and destruction that will eventually be unleashed upon the world.
It's kind of terrifying when you think about it.
It is, and there's so much mystery surrounding them. Where do they come from? What's their true nature? Some even believe that they're descended from Noah.
Right, or that they have these, monstrous features.
Yeah. There's a lot of speculation, which only adds to their mystique.
One thing's for sure, though. That barrier holding them back will eventually crumble,
And when it does, they'll be unleashed upon the world.
causing widespread chaos and destruction.
All right, let's shift gears here to a story of faith and divine protection.
Okay.
Story of the people of the cave.
Yeah, these young men who sought refuge from religious persecution.
Right.
This story always captures the imagination,
It does.
These young men fleeing for their lives, they hid in a cave and they were miraculously put to sleep for centuries.
Centuries. That's like one long nap.
I know, right?
And the details of their slumber are incredible. Their faithful dog guarded the entrance.
Right.
And God periodically turned them on their sides just to preserve their bodies.
Even their dog was blessed for their company.
And there's, a lot of mystery surrounding this story.
There is.
The exact number of young men is never actually given. And the Quran emphasizes that only Allah knows the full truth.
Right. Even the location of the cave is debated.
It's like a historical treasure hunt.
It is. And their eventual awakening in a world that's completely different from the one they knew
Yeah.
It symbolizes the passage of time, the changing nature of reality, and the enduring power of faith.
It's a reminder that God can protect us, even in the darkest times,
Hmm.
and that his plans, they unfold over vast stretches of time.
Now let's delve into a parable that challenges our understanding of wealth and possessions.
Okay.
It's the story of two men, one a believer, the other a disbeliever,
Okay.
each with this beautiful garden.
This story really highlights the contrast between two completely different worldviews.
Right.
The disbeliever, blinded by his wealth, boasts about his possessions and just dismisses the idea of an afterlife.
He's totally self-satisfied, convinced that he achieved everything through his own efforts.
And then, in a dramatic turn of events, the disbeliever's garden is destroyed.
It's a reminder that material wealth can just disappear in an instant,
It symbolizes the impermanence of this world. And it's like a warning against being too attached to material things.
For sure.
I love what the believer says to the disbeliever. He says, "That which Allah wills will come to pass. There is no power but with Allah."
It's such a powerful statement of faith and surrender.
It reminds us that true peace comes from recognizing that there's this greater plan at work, a divine will that governs everything.
Absolutely.
Now for our last story, let's turn to the wisdom of Luqman.
Luqman, yeah.
This wise man whose advice to his son is recorded in the Quran. Now, there's debate about whether he was a prophet, but his teachings are universally admired.
They're full of such practical wisdom that we can apply to our lives today,
Yeah. He talks about worshiping Allah alone, avoiding arrogance and boasting, being moderate in all things, even speaking softly.
His words are like this guidebook for living a righteous life.
And his teachings are timeless. I mean, who couldn't benefit from a little more humility and gratitude?
Seriously.
And he really beautifully emphasizes God's omnipresence and knowledge. Remember that line. Even if something is the weight of a mustard seed, Allah will bring it forth on the day of judgment.
It's a powerful image.
It is. It's a reminder that nothing escapes God's notice. We're accountable for everything we do, big or small.
Luqman's words really encourage us to live with intention, to be mindful of our choices,
Right.
and to strive for excellence in all things.
Okay, from wisdom and guidance, let's turn to a story of incredible faith in the face of persecution. Ibn Kathir tells the story of the people of the ditch, these believers who refused to give up their faith even when threatened with, a fiery death.
It's a really powerful story.
It is.
It takes place during the reign of this, really tyrannical king
Right.
who was influenced by this magician, and they basically tried to force everyone back to idol worship.
And it all started with this one young boy who converted to faith after encountering, a monk.
Right.
It's unbelievable how, this one child's decision to believe could spark such a wave of persecution.
It's a testament to individual conviction,
Yeah.
how even one person's belief can challenge an entire system.
And this boy wasn't just a believer, he also had the gift of healing.
Right, which just made the king even angrier.
It shows that sometimes even the purest acts of faith
Yeah.
can be perceived as a threat by those in power.
For sure, for sure.
The king tried everything to force his people back to their old ways, but the believers wouldn't budge.
Their faith was unshakable.
And in a desperate act of cruelty, the king orders them to be thrown into a ditch filled with fire.
Yeah, it's a horrifying scene.
It is.
It really highlights, the depths of human cruelty.
But even in that moment of, unimaginable suffering, these believers, they held on to their faith.
They chose death over abandoning their beliefs.
It's such a powerful testament to the power of faith to
Right.
overcome even the most primal human fear, the fear of death.
And it's a story that still resonates today,
Yeah.
In a world where people are still persecuted for what they believe. It reminds us of the courage and resilience it takes to stand up for your faith.
Okay, for our final story, let's go back to ancient Arabia and witness an incredible act of divine intervention. The story of the owners of the elephant.
Abraha, the ruler of Yemen, decided he was going to destroy the Kaaba.
His arrogance is astounding.
Yeah.
He gathered this massive army, complete with elephants,
Right.
with the intention of just demolishing this holy site.
He was a complete act of disrespect, a direct challenge to God.
And the people of Mecca, they were basically powerless to stop him.
Right.
All they had was their faith in God's protection.
You could say that faith was rewarded in a pretty spectacular way.
Just as Abraha's army was about to attack these flocks of birds sent by God to send it upon them.
These birds, called ababil.
They carried these small stones in their beaks and claws
Aye.
and just rained them down on Abraha's army.
It's an incredible image.
It is. It says Abraha's forces were completely defeated like an empty field of stalks. It's a powerful reminder that even the most powerful armies
Yeah.
are no match for the power of God.
And this story is especially significant
Yeah.
because it happened in the same year the Prophet Muhammad was born.
It's seen as a sign of God's protection over Mecca,
Yeah.
the city that would become the heart of Islam.
It's amazing how all these stories, they connect with each other,
Yeah.
creating this, like, tapestry of faith, history, and wisdom.
It's a reminder that they're not just isolated incidents, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They're all part of this larger narrative, this story that's still unfolding.
So, as we're wrapping up our deep dive into the stories of the Quran, what are some of the key takeaways for you?
We see the importance of faith over and over again, trusting in God's plan, even when we don't understand it.
Right.
We see the consequences of arrogance and disobedience,
Yeah.
but we also see the beauty of humility and submission. These stories remind us that this world is temporary
Right.
and that we should be focused on what is eternal.
They challenge us to look at our own lives,
Yeah.
our own choices, and really strive to live in a way that's pleasing to God.
It's a powerful message.
It really is.
So to everyone listening, we encourage you to keep exploring these stories.
Yeah.
Dig deeper